Hey guys, welcome to another video on the Inside Spurs Show. Happy Thursday afternoon to you all. In this video, as you see by the man on the thumbnail, not me, the other guy, we're going to be talking about Xavi Simons and Manchester City's interest in the RB Leipzig attacker. We're talking a little bit about Jack Grealish, a bit of an update surrounding his situation. Obviously, Spurs being linked there. We're talking about that. We're talking about Yann Bisseck. We're talking about Noni Madueke. We're going to be talking about someone else. Rodrigo Muniz. So there's quite a bit to talk about in this video. Again, like I previously stated in other videos, I will try and upload a shorter video, 2, 3, 4 minutes long at the end of each day, just to recap what we've already spoken about in the live. So I know some people can't make and kick about for a live, and I get that. People are busy, life goes on, that kind of thing. Good morning. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon to you all. Sean, Steve, Janice, Hawkeye, Adi, Spurs. Excuse me. Good afternoon to you all. Obviously, again, there is nothing that's come out surrounding Ange, as far as I'm aware. No, there's nothing. There's nothing that's come out surrounding Ange. So, look, don't come in here and go, oh, what's up with Ange? We don't know. Okay, we don't know. All right? So, put out there early, getting ahead of the bullets, jump ahead of the gun. There is no news. Don't worry about it. And when we talk about transfers, as we always have done, we talk about them on the face of things that Ange is the manager, because we know what that football looks like. We know what the system looks like. If it's a different manager, we don't know. Okay, so it's not a pro-Ange or an anti-Ange situation. It's more of a communication thing, all right? Stu, Sonia, Jake, Ray, Michael, how are you all? So let's jump in and let's start with a little bit of Xavi Simons flavoured news, because obviously we've been linked to Xavi Simons. Yeah, Manchester City are in for an interesting window. Now, this is interesting only for one exact reason, but a couple of different sources. So Loic Tanzi, it works for L'Equipe, as well as Hugo Gillemate. Gillemate, I think I'm going to go with that. Saying that Xavi Simons is of interest to Manchester City, but only as an alternative to Ryan Cherky, obviously, if that deal was to fall through. Now, I don't expect that deal to fall through. I do believe Ryan Cherky will join Manchester City this summer. But it is interesting. Manchester City, I believe, are taking themselves out of the Morgan Gibbs-White race. Supposedly too expensive, the deal. Makes you think how expensive that deal truly is if Manchester City find that deal too expensive. I feel like maybe Nottingham Forest, due to the fact they're going into Europe and having a bit more wiggle room when it comes to financial fair play, probably don't need to sell anyone this summer. And probably just trying to hold on to their main guys. I think they're getting rid of a few squad guys, but nothing too mental. I like Xavi Simons. I do. I think there is a situation where I've always been quite honest with it. I do think Spurs sign one marquee name this summer. That will be, when you ever think about the summer, last year was Slanky. The summer before that is probably James Maddison. And so on and so forth. This summer, it feels like I still think Eberechi Eze is the number one guy. But if it wasn't to be Xavi, it was to be Eberechi Eze and it was to be Xavi Simons, I would be absolutely fine with that. I think Xavi Simons is obviously a few years younger. He's had tons of experience of top flight football in Europe, international, obviously as a Dutch international, as well as obviously through the Bundesliga, Liga 1, Eredivisie. So it's not shocking on that. Matt, how are you, mate? You're right. Really, really good player. Really, really good player. The statistics back up how good a player he is. He is going to cost more, though, than Eze, even with the add-ons of Eze's deal being up to about 68. I feel like Xavi Simons will be 70 and above. Obviously, like I said, he's got more years on his side. I do expect him to move this summer, Xavi Simons. I think they might cash in on him and Sesko, and they're going to make 160, 170 million on those two guys. Using that money to really revamp that Leipzig squad, because I think it needs a bit of a revamp this summer. It does need a fix up. It needs a change. Yeah, so we'll sort of see on that one. But Simons, I really like Simons, but he isn't my number one option. But if it wound up him being the guy, I still would be thrilled with that. I really would. I think he's a player with versatility. We've seen, like I said, his statistics of the last couple of seasons, how he's done in the Bundesliga. He has shown out to be a good player. He's shown out to be one of the better players in the Bundesliga. I always kind of thought Bayern Munich would go and get him. Obviously, not getting Florian Wirtz, a front three. Sorry, the three behind Kane being Simons, Musiala, and Elise. I think is absolutely incredible. But I haven't really seen those links. We'll sort of see. Paul and Joshua, how are you, lads? You all right? So look, there's that on Xavi Simons. Moving a little bit on to let's talk Madueke actually quickly. I wasn't going to first and foremost, but let's talk quickly. Apparently, Newcastle United have approached Chelsea over a move for Madueke. They value the winger at 40 to 42 million euros. So let's call it 35 to 37.5 million pounds. They believe he could thrive at St. James's Park. Now, obviously, Chelsea have an interesting situation this summer themselves. I know they're looking to add in Jamie Gittins from Dortmund. They have Neto. They have Tyreek George. Mudryk still banned. Sancho, they've paid Man United money to take Sancho back off of them. Part of me goes, I know that maybe Madueke is maybe not the starter that they want, but I feel like they might need him unless they're looking to add in maybe a couple of different attackers. I feel like they would need him, like I said, with Palmer, Enzo, you could say, is another guy that can play that sort of central role. You got Neto, Tyreek George, Mudryk still suspended, Madueke. I feel like they would need him. Maybe I'm missing out a name there that I've kind of forgotten about, but I feel like they would need him. I like Madueke. I think he's a good player there. He gives me Sane vibes, pacey, direct, can beat a man. Sometimes, though, his end product is something left to be desired. Like, he's a Tottenham boy. We know that. He's not academy trained. So before someone asks, he's not academy trained, all right? Because people there's a lot of people on Twitter that think he is academy trained. He's not. I don't know with Madueke. Like, you look at his stats, they look good. But when you factor in 3 goals against Wolves, you take that one game away, they don't look as good as you think. Could he be good in an Ange system where, our wingers seem to get a lot of space? Potentially, but the only thing I would say is with our right-hand side, other than Porro, our right-hand side is where the ball finishes and ends up, and that's when either Solanke or Johnson are on the end of it. Is Madueke a good enough finisher? I don't think he is. So I would maybe struggle with that a little bit. Johnson, as much as, you might love or hate Johnson or you don't think he can beat his man or whatever, the end product with Johnson's there. The statistics speak for themselves. And if you don't think they speak for themselves, please argue with the wall behind me because I'm not really interested in hearing it. I just think with Madueke, he just doesn't have that. He doesn't have that Johnson has at that wing position, Nikhil and Eric, how are you, lads? Yeah, we'll see on Madueke. We'll see on Madueke. Let's move on a little bit, though. Do have... Right, I'm going to bring this one in now, actually. I've just seen something. Prem Inside have said that Tottenham are interested in João Palhinha from Bayern. The defensive midfielder expected to explore his options after not being guaranteed minutes next season. Interesting. That's come out 6 minutes ago. Now, that is interesting. I was going to talk about Rodrigo Muniz, but let's talk about João Palhinha. I just want to see how many minutes he's played at Bayern Munich last season. He turns 30 in a month. He played 17 times in the Bundesliga. So he's got a contract for 3 more years. He turns 30 in about 5 weeks. He played 24 times last season across the Bundesliga, Champions League, and DFB Pokal. He's played 941 minutes. They spent 50 million on him last year, pretty much. Crikey. What do we feel? What do we feel about Palhinha? Do we like Palhinha? Do we want Palhinha? Yes, no, what your value is on this? Because again, if we're buying him, are Bayern Munich going to want their 50 million back? I want to see what you guys think. By the way, I might not be drinking summer fruit squash. Adventurous is not here to back me. Summer fruit squash, sparkling water. I'm still in there. Don't worry. Let's have a look. Think Madueke burnt his bridges? No, I don't think so. H says he's not it. Al Dente, I don't want Paulinho. He wants Ravella. Didn't impress you for Germany lot. He can't impress you for Germany. He's Portuguese. He's too old. He's a tank, but on the ball, I don't know. Adventurous is here. Look, Adventurous, you might have just missed it. Summer fruits, sparkling water, my friend. I'm still back in the game. Don't worry. Robinson's again. Ole, ole. That's brilliant. Instead of Johnson again, it's Robinson again. Just had vodka. It's 12:41 p.m. here on a Thursday. Ravella would be great, but don't think he would leave Lazio. Loan Paulinho, not buy, see how it works out. The world is now balanced. The world is now balanced. Andrew has his, or Andy. I'm not Andrew, technically. Technically I am Andrew, but Andy has his summer fruits back. Look, when watching him this season for Bayern, I thought he struggled. I really did. And when I was talking about Paulinho, the reason why I thought he struggled really was the big thing for me was when playing in a dominant side on possession-wise, being further up the field, I felt like because obviously how I look at like Rodrigo Bentancur can get around the pitch, right? Don't look at Mickey Van der Ven. That's not a fair one. Mickey Van der Ven can get around the pitch better than anyone in world football, right? Just midfielder-wise, Bentancur gets around the pitch. You know, Bissouma can get around the pitch. Bergvall can. Paulinho doesn't have that kind of athleticism. Now, in the Bayern situation where you do need to cover 40, 50 yards worth of space quite quickly because there's going to be counterattacks, I thought there's a real reason he struggled. I mean, look at it this way. Goretzka was frozen out, was told that he wasn't going to play, and then ended up playing pretty much week in, week out ahead of Paulinho, who was fit. He's 30 next month, right? So the season starts, he's already 30. And I said about Bissouma, I said about Bentancur, I said you get into your later 20s, you know, you get into the back end of your prime. Sometimes you're already at the end of your prime, but you're at the back end of your prime, you know, in theory, that's the time to move on from players. You don't. I said about, like, I'll talk about Grealish in a second, but like I said about Sane. Sane turns 30 halfway through the season. I was never really keen on Sane. Like, he's going to cost a fortune. Paulinho spent 50 odd million for. How much are they going to truly want to sell him? I think they want to get off of him because it's what smart clubs do. They sign a player, you know, it hasn't worked out. Let's try and get off him, right? He's going to be good for a couple of years, and I think that's about it. And that's the you know, if this was the Paulinho that, you know, even a year ago, I'd have been more keen on, but he then would have been 29. You've got to get 3 years out of him. In reality, you wanted Paulinho when he was about 28, 27 maybe as well. The Paulinho you got that's going to be 30 at the start of next season, I don't know if he's going to have the legs to play in an Ange-like system. And again, when we talk about chances, we talk about them playing in an Ange ball. Now, had we had Inzaghi, for example, fine. I'd have gone, oh, Paulinho in Inzaghi system, I think would work. You know, a bit more of a defensive line, you know, but not in an Ange-like system. Paulinho, I don't think would work the way you would want him to. Again, the key thing is be able to get around the pitch. And at Fulham, he played for Marco Silva, who obviously play a bit more defensively. I'm not saying they play utter defensive football, but they're not as high up the pitch. He doesn't have to cover as much of a pitch. The Craven Cottage obviously not a huge pitch either. So not blown away on this one, if I'm honest. You think Fulham got the best of Paulinho's and Klein now? Sure, fair enough. Terzic, there's no real credible links to Terzic, and I would not want Terzic either. Stated it many a times for many different reasons. Again, though, with like, you know, the 8 for me, I shouldn't have to have an 8 that's going to cover his work and some of the 6's work, because the 6 is going to struggle around to get around the pitch. You know, that's not what I want. You know, and I think you can kind of look at some of the Italian teams in the Champions League recently playing against a bit more of an athletic side. when they do have an older boy and they can't just sit back and hold back, there's issues. Acerbi in the final, late in his late 30s, the pace was really brutal. And I think Paulinho would struggle with that sort of pace. Again, I think he is a good player in the right system. I don't think Vincent Kompany's system is going to end up suiting him. And I don't think our system right now would suit him either. You know, I know that it's the sexy idea. I know it's the sexy transfer, but no, I think not for me personally. I think not for me personally. Um, there's loads of players in the market that improve Spurs. There's loads of players in the market. I don't think João Gomez would leave Wolves. They've sold Cunha. I don't think they would need to. How is City going to get Xavi and Cherki? Got to be here at the start, Josh. I talked about it already. But yeah, there's that. Look, that was a bit of a off the cuff bit of news on João Paulinho. We move on. Let's talk about Rodrigo Muniz. So this came out from Julio Miguel Neto. Bit of a weird one. Bit of a weird one on Muniz. So he's 24. He's not long turning 24, about a month ago, actually. Obviously, he's had quite a bit of football in the Prem now. He's been here for a couple of years. Came from Middlesbrough to Fulham. This season, 36 games, 11 goals, 2 assists. I mean, transfer market value at 20 million euros. He's got a year left on his contract with an option for an extra year. So he's basically got 2 years left on his contract. Of course, though, his player agent is CAA Base Limited. What a surprise. Spurs love working within that realm. This isn't an upgrade on Richie. This isn't an upgrade on Richie. I mean, 57 games in the Premier League, 17 goals, 2 assists. That's not very good. 42 games in the Championship, 7 goals. Yeah, no, I'm all right on this one personally. I do not want Rodrigo Muniz. This is cheap. This would show Spurs are being cheap, if I'm honest. I don't think there's anything in this. You know, I think this would show Spurs are being cheap, you know, because I think you would buy Muniz for sort of the money you'd sell Richarlison. Richarlison's much the better player, in my opinion. He just can't stay fit. That's the only issue. No, I think I could probably speak. I think we could probably speak quite fairly for all of us. We probably all don't want Rodrigo Muniz. Yeah, that would be, you know, my attitude is with a new manager. Obviously, you support the manager and who he wants, because obviously you want to deliver. You know, if the guy is asked, "Hey, we want Champions League football next season," and not via a cup, because apparently that's the be all and end all for a lot of Spurs fans. The manager goes, "Cool. If you want that, then I need these things." And if the owner goes, "You can have 3 of those 5 things," and then the manager goes, "Well, then you're not going to get Champions League football, because I need those things for Champions League football." If Muniz is one of those things, shoot me now. Like, that's not an upgrade. That you're not improving the squad. Okay, maybe he stays a little bit fitter than Richarlison. There does have to be a point where the durability is only so much. There has to be an output with that durability, and there isn't an output with this durability. Okay, mate, in a Spurs, niece knocked over my drink. If in a Spurs, you know, system, could there be that output? Maybe, but I don't see it right now. I really don't. You know, I think at strike, I'd rather Richie. I'd rather Tell. I'd rather Son. I'd rather a multitude of players over him. So let's skip on this one. Save the money. Go and buy me a left back. All right. Go and buy me a left back. I'd rather that. Save the 20 odd million. Go and get me a left back. Is it so hard to ask? You know, I'm not asking for a lot in life. All right. I write my list to Santa, and they go, "Hey, what do you want for Santa to get you for Christmas?" And all it is every single year has been, "I just want a left back." And Santa for 2 years in a row has let me down, because all I want is all I want is, "Oh no, I just want a left back. I want a left back, and I want 4 centre backs. That's all I want." Don't get it though, do I? Santa's let me down. We're acting like a team who finished 17th in the league with no European football. I'm already worried about his chance win of the summer. I mean, the window's been open 4 days, like 5 days, maybe you want to call it. Let's not panic with, it's not even been a week. Let's not panic right now. All right. There is still plenty of time left in this window. And also the key thing, I think a lot of people do recognize, we don't play again, really, a competitive game of football until middle of August, right? So two and a bit months, okay? And I know people kind of go, look, City are getting chirky, and they got Reinders, and Liverpool are going to get Verts, and they got Frimpong, and, Arsenal done no business. Zubimendi's not joined. Newcastle done no business. Man United signed Cunha. Great. So instead of finished 16th, they'd finished 12th, even with no European football, right? It's a lot of teams like Chelsea. Who have Chelsea done business for? They've done Liam Delap, fair play. They've signed one guy. So, there's not been a crazy amount of business. There's been a lot of rumors and reports. But a lot of the teams that are doing business actually play football again in about 10 days' time. They're playing the Club World Cup. We're not. So all I say is I get why people are annoyed about it. I do get it. Because you see other teams signing players. But we also don't play a game of serious football in 2.5 months. And the other thing is as well, maybe a lot of these names that are being signed aren't real targets. Cherky probably was. Delap, there may have been some interest, but we weren't in for Cunha. We weren't in for Reinders. We're not in for Verts and Frimpong and Kirkes, we're not in for Gittins. Who else is there that's going to be, and Buemo maybe, but, from 10 names, there might be 3, but it doesn't mean the 3 are top of the Spurs list. They might have just been, they might have been 3rd or 4th in the list. And actually, they've gone now. So the room for failure has shortened a bit, if you know what I mean. If Eze's number 1 and there's a huge gap to number 2 and 3, and 4th was, Cherky, then you go, well, we lost 4th, but the top 3 are still there, So I get why people are upset. I do. I'm not saying that you're wrong for being upset. I'm just saying we're not even in a week into the chance window. All right. So many people have gone, we won the trophy 2 weeks ago. Why haven't we signed someone? It's like, chill out. This isn't Championship Manager, LMM Manager, Pro Evolution Soccer, FIFA. This isn't, Football Manager. This isn't, that's not the way world works in football. All right. Karma. Because also the other thing you got to remember is there was 2 ports of action this summer, depending on how that European final went. So no transfer plan was actually finalised until probably the Friday afterwards. So it's not even been 2 weeks. That's what I'm saying. Whereas Liverpool, season was done. They knew Trent was leaving. So they knew they were getting Frimpong. Easy. Verts was someone they've been wanting for a while. They've been moving on him. Chelsea probably knew Liam Delap, someone they really, really wanted. They knew they were getting Champions League football last game of the season, but they knew at worst they're going to be in the Europa League, right? So they knew getting the Europa League, but we'll probably get Champions League football, right? Arsenal, they haven't really done anything. They knew they were getting Champions League football for ages. City, let's be honest, City knew they were getting Champions League football. And they were going to spend anyway, regardless, even if they didn't. They got Europa League. So, and those teams knew who they're getting rid of as well. We, on the other hand, my actually issue is, when fans go not signing one, it's the manager hasn't been guaranteed. Now, don't get me wrong, I've always said Daniel Levy owes us no explanation to say who the manager is. It's like the Cronkies coming out and saying, yeah, Arteta's going to be a manager. It's like Palace coming out and going, yeah, Glasner's going to be the manager. They don't owe you a damn thing, right? They don't. Us as fans, we're not owed a thing about being told who the manager is. Would it be nice to hear? Yeah, of course. But it's not. We can't demand such a thing if it's business as usual. Then it's business as usual. It's like being in a relationship and on the hour, every hour, you demanding to be told that you're loved. What? You know what I mean? So, like I said, if Ange is the manager next season, Daniel Levy doesn't owe us a damn thing. Now, would it be nice? Yes, but it's nice. The irony to that is obviously we don't technically know. That's the irony. But it could be a media-driven agenda thing that, the media are harping on this point because it's getting clicks, it's getting likes, it's getting, interactions, it's getting money basically for these reporters. I saw one from Sky Sports. It's like Ange might be the manager, Ange might not be, and it's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? It's the most nothing report I've ever seen. It's a waste of time, and you're winding people up, and you know what you're doing as well. By the way, you know it's going to wind people up because people aren't going to read through the lines. They're just going to read that report and get really angry. But let's be honest, other managers have been sacked like a day before the season, right? Gary O'Neill left Bournemouth right before the start of the season. He wasn't getting sacked. It was just over a disagreement over how they were going to do business in the summer. Yeah, it's like, Arteta could leave the day before the season. You don't know. Nothing's guaranteed in football. I get, and that's what I get. But yeah, so on that side of things, it does make chances a bit more difficult potentially. We've obviously talked about underlying things from that. But obviously, we only finalise what our transfer plan was probably going to be, 13 days ago? So, you know what I mean? I'm just calling for a little bit of patience. At first, I was annoyed, and then I sort of thought about it, and I was like, season finished not even 2 weeks ago, right? Finished 10 days ago, basically. Would it have been nice last week to know that Andrew was going to be a manager? Yeah, of course. I totally agree. I'm with you. I would like to know. I would like to know. But at the same time, am I entitled to know if Andrew's going to be if Andrew's going to stay? I'm not entitled to know that. Would it be nice? Yes, I agree. But on transfer dealings, it's been 10 days since at the end of the season. There's not been that many deals that have gone on, right? Trent, we all knew was going to be going to Real Madrid. They've been negotiating probably since the start of last summer. Take that one out of the way, right? Delap got done last night. Been working on that a few weeks, no doubt. First isn't done. They've been working on that for ages. Frimpong got done, but they were talking about Frimpong for weeks ahead of that getting completed. Because there's not been that many deals when you think about it. Like Reinders, fine, that's another one, but Cherky's still not done. That's been loud. So I'm just calling for a little bit of patience. Demand success and demand transfers with you, but just a little bit of patience, okay? It takes a little bit of time to get transfers done. This isn't, like I said, this isn't FIFA. It doesn't take 2 minutes. It takes weeks and months to get deals done at times, all right? They'll be talking to agents today, players, all sorts. They'll be in negotiations, I promise you. They will be. If you think they're doing nothing, I promise you they are doing stuff. Every club is. Even the teams that aren't laden with money, So there you go. Liverpool are not in the World Club Champ. They're still acting quick, though. Yeah, I've already answered that. Vuskovic is going to get a chance pre-season, but may go out on loan. So centre-back might not be something they attack early in the window. It might be something they attack later in the window, depending on how his pre-season goes. Same with Phillips, and Dorrington, obviously. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Daniel Levy fan, but he isn't like he doesn't have to tell us Ange is staying if he knows Ange is staying. It's like I go into work, I know I have a job and I'm not getting sacked. I can't go in there every day and go, so you are keeping me. The manager would go, mate, what you do? Can you just go do your work? And me then turning to everyone else in the room with me. Well, it's not been announced, but and everyone's going, but I want to know. It's like, then just get on with your job. And that could be the same thing here, just saying. We're not owed an explanation. At the same time, the media hysteria could silence for it in a few sentences. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It'd be nice to know, but I'm not, I can't demand to know, I keep saying, EZ, how are you? EZ, mate, you got to hit the bell notification. It'll tell you when I go live. Hell, if you hit the bell notification, it'll tell you half an hour before that I'm going to go live, so there you go. Fixtures out soon. Can't wait. Steve, what do you mean about the teams with more money than FFP? What do you mean? And technically, Spurs have signed someone, because I've just read Josh's comment quickly. Spurs have signed Kevin Danso. We have signed someone. That's going to whine. One of you is going to get annoyed by that, I can tell. I'm going to rattle someone with that. because technically it is a new signing and it's going to really, really jar someone. And I cannot wait to find out who that is. He said, mate, it's on you. I can't, ring you and tell you that I'm going live, bud. All right. Moving on, though, more transfer news. That's on Muniz, obviously. Yann Bisseck into live saying that Spurs are interested in Yann Bisseck, so are Man United and West Ham. I mean, May 5th, a month ago, today, actually, Fabrizio Romano saying that English and German clubs have started sending scouts to follow Yann Bisseck. Several clubs have started calling. May 2nd, caught offside. Man United face competition from Tottenham and West Ham for Yann Bisseck, who is expected to be available for 55 million euros. If I'm honest, he's not going to be worth that because Inter Live reckon it's going to be about 40 million euros. I felt for Yann Bisseck, obviously getting injured in the final. I think Yann Bisseck actually should have started the final as well because of the pace that PSG had. I felt for Acerbi because I think Acerbi's a good defender, but when he plays in the Serie A, it's a much slower league. You're going to need some athletes to play against PSG. Like, I wouldn't want Ben Davies playing against PSG. I need Mickey van der Ven. I need Christian Romero. I need Big Kev Danso. Radu, I think, would struggle a little bit with PSG. Your Jardim Rattles. You're welcome, Paul. You're welcome. No FFP room, but rich Saudi uncle. Well, no, if you have no FFP room, you need to make changes and you need to look, also, can we just bring this point in? 30th of June, that's when books need to be sorted for clubs when it comes to their FFP season. So there might be a bit of a wholesale, fire sale in about 2 weeks' time when clubs go, crap, we've got 2 weeks to get our books sorted. We need to sell some players. And then July 1st, the books then reopen for a new season. So don't be surprised by that. That's probably why Bayern maybe want to get a few deals done sales-wise, like Tell, before then, and then have a new year for it. So don't forget that. That's also that. Mr. K, how are you, mate? Boris says Inter got some dodgy dealings. That 40 million euros is quite a bit of money for them. If you have more than 5 subs, the bell is unreliable. I've cut back to make sure I get the notification. Fair enough, Sean. Being a Champions League club, every player purchase will cost more. Yeah, absolutely. Villa are one to watch wages at 92%. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with them. Obviously, selling Duran is a huge impact. 70 odd million they got for him. They may sell Watkins. Anana's wanted by Saudi. Martinez is probably looking like he's going to leave. Rashford was on loan. I don't think they'll be picking up his option. Asensio, I think they will buy Asensio, but he's cheap in terms of the transfer fee. It's like 13 million. So, yeah, we'll see on that one. But no, on Bisseck. Bisseck is an athletic defender. Very much an athletic defender. I quite like Yann Bisseck. Again, I watched a lot of... I'm a bit of a football junkie, so I kind of get obsessed. Like, Inter Milan are at 7:45. Yeah, I'll stick them on. I know we have a few games on at once. I'll have multiple screens with multiple games. I'll have multiple 3 p.m.ers on. I'll have there's a Scottish game at 12:30 and there's a Prem game. I'll have them both on. I'm obsessed. So I've been watching a lot of German football this season. 2:30 kickoff. Watch a lot of that. I watched a lot of Inter Milan this season. I don't know why he doesn't play more. And I say that, and he played 46 times this season. It just didn't feel like he played that much. But he played 46 times this season, 3 goals, 3 assists, so 6 goal contributions, by the way. A lot of times he plays in the back 3. He plays the right centre-back role. Obviously with, Dumfries, who bombs forward. You need someone. You've needed someone to cover big open areas of the field with Dumfries or Pavard or Darmian. There you go. Pavard and Darmian it just feels like they merge into the same guy. You need someone to cover that big area of space. It's like that's why Desi Adogi, I think, plays so well. That's why I think DeMarco has looked so good at Inter. Is Bastoni can cover that big area of space that DeMarco's left. Now the irony is when you've got a team that can play through the press that Inter might give, and you then leave Bastoni, quite frequently one-on-one, having to cover so much ground because DeMarco cannot defend to save his life. That's why DeMarco looked and got subbed often. And in those bigger games, unless he was injured, which I've not heard anything, he got subbed in the 2 games against Barca and the final around half-time, just after half-time, because he wasn't good defensively and he was offering next to nothing offensively at times. And they got Augusto to come in and play. But Bisseck on the right does that. And I look at, how Desi Doggy played for Spurs with Mickey van de Ven behind him. Mickey can clear up huge, huge areas of the pitch, like no one else can. We're very blessed in that. Romero can cover big areas of space. Bisseck, I'd probably say, is maybe a tad bit more athletic than Romero. He's not as athletic as Mickey. Mickey is obviously an anomaly, a different beast, a beast onto his own. Bisseck obviously can do probably a bit of a mixture of two, but he's also quite tall. He's like 6'4" or something like that. Hang on. Meters to feet. Let's do the comparison. We'll be smart about this. So he is 1.96 meters. He's 6'4". There you go. Like for a 6'4" guy, he can get around the pitch really, really well. He's decent with the ball as well. Like, again, he's probably not a Christian Romero on the ball, but he is still good. He is just another right centre-back, Phil, and that's the query that I had. You got big Kev Danso. Can one of those 2 guys go and play on the left-hand side? I don't know. That's what I quite like. I think Bisseck's great. And if we didn't have Danso, I'd be all over this. But I just look at Jared Branthwaite, left-footed, centre-back, athletic enough to cover some ground. But I like Bisseck. And look, if it's about 35 million, I really feel like that's good value for money in the market, at the moment. Danso is about 25. This is another extra 10. And that is like, again, if you look at it, could that be, if you keep Ange, obviously it's more than likely Romero wants to stay. If your centre-back room is Mickey van de Ven, Christian Romero, Big Kev Danso, I cannot call him Kevin Danso. It's just Big Kev Danso. And Yann Bisseck, then I really think, you look at that forward, and I think that is a really solid centre-back room. It's one of the better ones in the Premier League, in my opinion. I would take it over Chelsea's. I take it over Man City's. I think Liverpool lack depth. I think Liverpool's 2 centre-backs are phenomenal, but then lack the centre-back depth behind it. So I'm talking about the whole room. Watching how Inter played in the final, I'm angry that Barca gave that semi-final away. Yeah, well, conceding a goal, a minute into the game, which, by the way, a day later we scored 37 seconds in. So we saw what Barca, we saw what Inter did, and we went, we'll raise you that by scoring a goal 20 seconds quicker than you could. I mean, one's Barca and one's Bodo Glimt, but that's neither here nor there. It's irrelevant. It actually doesn't matter. But I like Bisseck. I think he's a good player. But yeah, no, again, the window closes for about 6 days. So your teams will still be active, by the way, in that time. They don't stop for 6 days and then restart things up. They will still be active. Nothing will change. It just means instead of it being official on the 13th when the deal's done, you just got to wait 3 days and then it's official on the 16th. But yeah. You see what I mean? Moving on from Yann Bisseck, though. Last one. I want to talk about Grealish. I put out a post. I want to talk about the post that I put out surrounding Grealish last night. And I sort of put out just a post. Year-long loan. Would you do it or not, right? And I think for the most part, people would. For a loan, people would. But obviously, I get why people are a little bit worried. There's some injury concerns. He doesn't stay fit enough. I do get that, to be fair. I do get that. Like, I'm not going to deny that. You are 1000% correct that he doesn't stay fit enough. He would 100% suit Ange. And people go, he's not a massive touchline winger. Yeah, but when you've got overlapping and underlapping fullbacks, you need to be able to play a ball into them, and Grealish can. But how many times do you see Sonny in between the 2 lines of the 18-yard box in there for a cutback. Grealish, then you've got him in the central position, which I think Grealish, when he was at Villa, he had that freedom on the left to then cut inside. Same thing with Ange Ball. I think he could. You know, I think Ange would get him going, and that's the thing. I think Ange would get him going. That was my thinking. But on Grealish, right? Obviously, we have been linked to him on a deal. We have been for this summer. I think Villa are one, we're another. Someone else that I cannot think about who's been linked to him in the Premier League. It's probably someone like West Ham, no doubt. Because West Ham seem to get linked. It's West Ham are like us, by the way. They get linked to everyone. But on Grealish, this is if you're not sure that he'd leave City, this will tell you. This was exclusive, by the way, yesterday, that Jack Grealish is to be left out of the Club World Cup squad for Manchester City. Apparently, he's got plenty of Premier League and overseas interest. Actually, Jack Grealish, want to have a look at how many years left on his contract he's got? Where? Transfer market, here we go. CAA Stella. He turns 30 pretty much at the start of the season, 10th of September. 2 years left on his contract. I mean, 8 goal contributions in 32. It's 1 in every 4 for a guy who's always injured and never plays. It's not, ironically, not even that bad. Jack Grealish weekly wage. Just have a bit of an idea as to what he earns. 300 grand a week. Okay. 300 grand a week. That doesn't sound too bad. Good on him. On Grealish, though, for a season, I think it's a good move. I think it's a good move. Also, like, you factor this in, by the way. I've said it a few times, but I'm going to repeat it. You know, I've repeated, obviously, about the Club World Cup and how that changes things. You, this year, are in a World Cup year. Okay, so in January, there won't be a market to really improve. It just won't be that kind of, like, last year's market, chances to improve massively. Wasn't a World Cup or Euros year. This year is a World Cup. So players that are going to want to move are moving in the summer because they can already know they might not have a great chance to impress national coaches, right? But obviously, I know in January there might be 1 or 2 that it hasn't worked out. They might get that. But for me, I'm just thinking about Grealish. He knows he's not going to get the football at City. He knows he's leaving. Pep knows he's leaving. City knows he's leaving. Their strength in this deal is not there. They do not have a firm hold over this deal. What they're hoping for is 6 to 8 clubs that are all really keen on him to drive the market up. So even if it's a loan deal, it will drive the wages up of the team that goes, we'll offer more on his wages. You would pay less, we'd pay more. I think Spurs, I mean, looking at Werner last year, Spurs paid 165 grand a week. So Spurs could pay 150, 60 grand a week for Jack Grealish for a season. You know, I'm just thinking about, I was just in my head thinking aloud. I put it out here to you to digest. 132 of you. You're on a Thursday afternoon. You're watching me. 132 of you. You bloody legends. I just think Grealish would suit Spurs. I think he's had a rough time at City with injuries. He's going to play more at Spurs. He might get injured more. The irony to that is, hopefully, Vinay. I got faith in Vinay that he's going to hire some great medical staff, and we're not going to have half the injuries that we've had over the last 2 years. Even Conte, we had injuries under Conte like crazy. And that's the other key thing. It's not an Ange, like people go, Ange Ball kills players. Trust me, Conte killed players. All right. We didn't stay, our medical team is the common denominator. They do not stay fit. And the medical team are they're a huge impact on that, right? I think it's a deal that could work. Financially, I don't think it would be mental for a year. Homegrown. I also had an idea that it wouldn't, like, you know, it gives you an opportunity. Like, I think people this is the one thing that kind of irks me about the Mikey Moore situation. There's some Spurs fans think that Mikey Moore should be playing 2 or 3 games a week. Oh, but he's one of our own. And it's like, I get that. He's also a child. He doesn't need to be rushed and forced to play crazy amounts of football. Bit of football here and there is massive. Take Lamine Yamal out of the discussion, right, at 17. How many 17-year-olds are playing week in, week out football for a big club? Yeah, cool. No one gave me an answer because it's no one. So Mikey getting, some minutes here and there, that's great. He doesn't need to be playing crazy minutes. And having players like Grealish or Maddison and Son, he's going to learn so much, and he will improve because of it. So before someone cries that we're taking minutes away from certain players, just stop it. All right, just stop it. Okay. Like Friday, appreciate it, Steve. Yeah, everyone that has like videos recently, I keep saying it, but you're absolute bloody legends, by the way, because it's made people who don't see the channel have seen the channel, and we've grown crazy over the last sort of few days. Like I said, we're on the way to 4,000 subscribers. Not that far off. I think we're sort of like 60 subscribers off. So appreciate everyone that has liked the videos and commented recently. You bloody legends. That's why I always try and get back to every single comment. And I know there's a lot of comments in the live that I don't get to. That's why I put posts out. I put other videos out to see if I can speak to you via there, because I can then directly get to you. All right. We should be sponsored by all the people saying we should be sponsored by medical firms is worrying. But yeah, I think with Grealish, I see why it works. I see why we wouldn't go for it, by the way, as well. As much as I think for a season it's worth a punt, I see why we wouldn't. I can see why we would. Absolutely no issues with that. I look at him as a winger that can play centrally. Like we've seen it centrally that he can do it. Even like this season when he played centrally for City, he actually looked really, really good. I think there's an opportunity there. Obviously, he can play on the left as well. We know that. Knows the Prem. Again, if it's a loan deal, yeah, the wages would be high, but if it's a straight loan deal, we're not on the hook for him for multiple years. That's why I talked about Sane. I said with Sane, you're on the hook for 3 or 4 years. Grealish, you're on the hook for a year. So if it doesn't work out, it's a year. He's going to offer you more than Turbo Timo did. Shout out my boy Turbo Timo, legend. I'll have no people telling me that Turbo Timo is not a legend. All right. He's a legend on the career mode as well, which I should play at some point. I should play it again some point this week. Good to see that people are getting angry about a Harry Kane video. Brilliant. Nothing like that. Shows you how down bad this this fan base is. They're getting annoyed about that, I love Turbo Timo. Sane's better than Grealish. Yeah, I mean, Grealish for 1 year or Sane for 4 years, where we're going to be absolutely screwed by his wages at the back end. I'll take Grealish every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Again, people that think Sane is free have no idea how much money goes into deals. It's like when people go 30 million for this guy, 40 million for that guy, 30 million for this guy. It's £100 million spent. It's like, no, it's not. It just isn't. If you think that's all it is, there's no agent fees, there's no signing on fees, you're bonkers. You're spending way more than 100 million on that, So when I talk about, Sane, it's a 4-year deal at 300 odd grand a week. There's about 10 million in agent fees, about 10 million on, signing on fees. It's 20 million straight off the bat. 215k for Sane. No, it's not. The issue is you're going to break your wage structure. You're going to have to give everyone then a pay rise, right? You're going to piss people off if you don't as well. You've got to tread that line. If you're going to break the wage structure, break it for a world-class player. Don't break it for a player that wouldn't be the best player in the team. If you're going to break it, I'd go for Christian Romero. That's the one I'd break it for. Romero, I think, is a top centre-back. The amount of people that go, I don't think Christian Romero is. And it's like, well, there's stats to prove that he is. Now there's trophies to show that he is. He won player of the tournament in the Europa League as well. If you don't think he's a top centre-back anymore, I will never be able to prove to you that he is, unfortunately. Werner was 165 grand a week, mate. Come on, let's be better about it. And Sane is going to be way more than 215, by the way, bud. So, you know what I mean? Yeah, no, I want Mikey to get minutes, but it's the amount of people that go, Mikey should play 90 minutes. It's like, Mikey's not, like, I'll be real with you. Mikey's not better than Son. He's not better than Odebear. He's not better than Tell. And the amount of people that go, I've not seen enough from Tell. It's like, cool, right. Not been watching much Spurs football then. All right. But Moore, I love Moore. I think Moore's upside is crazy high, like Odebear and like Tell. He is just that little bit behind. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. I could think Ajayi's got talent. Ajayi's miles behind the other wingers, but I think he's got talent. You know, Jamie Donnelly. I think Jamie Donnelly's got an absolute future in him, right? He's miles behind the other centre mids. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, and that's my attitude with it all. You know, I think Mikey will get some minutes this season. Hopefully, it's not as intense the minutes because I think that's the other issue people have, right? Mikey got so many minutes when we had so many injuries, and then we got players back fit. He didn't get the minutes that everyone thought he was going to continue to get. I think even Ange said, Ange was like, we had an idea of how many minutes we were going to get him this season. The irony is it all came all at once, and it probably burned him out a little bit. You know, he got ill for like 2-3 months as well. That's the other thing that people seem to forget. He missed a quarter of the season himself. I think they really wanted to get him 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes here and there throughout the whole of the season. You know, his development would have taken nice, you know, gradual steps. It's the other thing with Mike, you know. So there's that. Put it towards player we've already got show sign. Yeah, I mean, look, the players in that squad, there are some players in that squad that deserve pay rises, 100%. Leroy Sané is not that guy. Not that guy, you know. Like, Son this season had more goal contributions than Leroy Sané. They're the exact same goal contributions in their respective leagues. Our league is tougher. We had 12 injuries for about 4 months of the season. Son still had the same goal contributions, whilst also being injured quite a bit of our season. I'll say it now. Son is better than Sané. You might hate that because Son's not as rapid, quick like Sané. No, Son's just more lethal. Son's better than Sané. Go this season, give me Son or Sané. I'll take Son every day of the week, twice on Sunday than Sané. Sané, I like. But Sané also drives you insane. Just drives you insane. He'll beat. Do you know what it is? Fans like players that beat their man. That's what they like. They like players that beat their man, right? That's the excitement. Oh, he's beating his man. Look at that. Oh, doesn't matter that he sliced the ball out for a goal kick. He beat his man. That's what a lot of fans want. They want to get off their seat, right? I mean, I just take the guy that puts the ball in the back of the net or whips in a great cross. I'll just take that. You know, I've seen Bayern this season. Sané is what? The 4th choice attacking midfielder? Elise took his spot and was miles clear of him. Gnabry, I think when Gnabry was fit, is better than him. Coman was a bit crap. And Musiala's there. You know, so, yeah. Being cheap has been relabeled as pay cap policy. No, I think look, I think there's a fine line between cheap and being a shrewd operator. And there's some deals that some of our players got are shrewd operators, right? And then there's some deals that you go, no, you're just cheap, you know. So you got to be smart about that. No, I think Donnelly will get a championship loan next season. I think that's the key thing here with Donnelly as well. He played in League One for a team that was probably tipped to get relegated, you know, halfway through the season. Just give him time, you know. More as a kid, we should be saying or expecting him to be better than seasoned international players. Let him develop and we see how good he is. Yeah. Just let the kid breathe. Let him develop at a nice rate. You know, the issue is you see Lamine Yamal. That is what the issue is, right? You see Lamine Yamal playing week in, week out, and he's unbelievable, right? And everyone then thinks, right, because he's young, then all of our young players must be that level. And of course, it's not just us. There's other teams that do this as well, right? And it's like, He's the anomaly. He is rare. 17-year-olds still need time to develop. He's also not playing in as a, physical league, which helps. He's also playing for the best team in the league, which also massively helps. And if they're not the best team, at worst, they're second or third best. They have 70% possession all the time. He's not having to do crazy amounts of work, things like that. We don't have that. We're not, who's second, third, City and Arsenal. We're not that this season in the Premier League. We're not. We were fifth the season before. So even then, we're not. So there you go. Donny and Lancashire United at West Brom. Well, you never know. You never know on that. I mean, again, with Mason being there, there might be an opportunity. Like I said, Chris Davies down at Birmingham. I thought we would send players to Birmingham last season. We didn't. So it's not always guaranteed. It's not always guaranteed, If he's not that good, Bayern wouldn't extend. Bayern are trying to get him to take a pay cut. And most Bayern fans do not want Sane. Have a look on Twitter. You'll see it. Hashtag Sane out was trending for a little while. It was something. Like, I think he's a good player. But he's going to drive you insane. And he's also not coming to us anyway. So before people keep talking about it, he's not coming to us anyway. I don't think we were truly ever in there because we aren't going to pay the wages that he wants. He wants 300k plus. Chelsea didn't do that for Sancho. Like, teams aren't falling for stupid wages anymore. They've seen what's happened to Man United. They've seen what's happened to other teams. Look at Manchester City, right? Grealish is on 300k a week. Nobody's going to buy him and take on those wages. Saudi may, that would be it. He's not going to go Saudi. There's a good reason for that. Teams are going to, like Premier League teams, even though they can pay higher in wages, it's so hard to sell players abroad into Europe because Premier League pays big wages. And that's not, the big boys of the Premier League. That's also is what? Crystal Palace, West Ham, Aston Villa. They pay big wages. It's hard to sell than your players abroad because teams abroad don't have that wage structure. They don't have, and if they do have that wage structure, they don't have that transfer fee structure, So it's very, very smart in a way to be a shrewd operator. There's obviously, just don't be an idiot. Yeah, Bayern Munich plan to keep Serge Gnabry. So Sane's behind Gnabry as well. Behind Gnabry, Elise, Musiala, him and Kingsley Coman fighting about who's going to be the least irrelevant of the two, So there you go. Nobody knew. Yeah, thing is as well, the amount of people that go, because we're not signing someone for 100 million, it means we're not trying. Destiny Doggy was 13 million. Show me the other big boys whose left back is better than him. Robertson, I'd give you over longevity. I would take Destiny Doggy over every other team's left back. Maybe Cucurella you could give him to. I'll give Cucurella. I'll be nice about Cucurella. Arsenal, I'm taking him over Arsenal's. I'm taking a Doggy over O'Reilly as the left back at City now because Gavardio's moved to centre back. I would take a Doggy over Villa's Digne. Newcastle's is it Hall? Livramento plays right back. Pretty much. Yeah, I would take Destiny over them. So at absolute worst, he's the third best left back in the league for me. So that was 13 million. Bergval's 8.5 million. So it's not always about spending massive, It's about being smart with how you spend it, Spurs have spent big, obviously. I'm not saying they haven't, but it's about being smart. We're trying for Gueye again. We're not getting Gueye. Who should we break the bank for? Well, technically, breaking the bank is 65 million and above, right? So Eze 68. Simons would be more than that. I don't think we're linked with anyone else that would be breaking the bank. And Mbuemo wouldn't break the bank, so I don't think Mbuemo would ever be stat. And I'm saying players we're linked to, by the way. It doesn't mean we're getting them. Yeah, Eze and Simons, one of those two. Yeah, I'd be happy with one of those two. No issues. No idea that is KVN. Bakayoko's Yeah, Bakayoko kind of got dropped for Perisic this season. I don't think I'd want him. That Rolls Royce rejected me. I think we should offer him more. I think, no, we can offer more in wages. We can offer more in wages, absolutely. But then there is a point that we don't overdo it. Let's not offer Bissouma 120 grand a week. It's going to be harder to move off of these players. We're already finding it hard to move off of some players. Look at Tanguy and Ndombele on 200k a week. He was on more than Sonny, wasn't he? Couldn't get rid of him. We'd pay him to leave. I don't think Livermento's going to City. It's 8 Nori now, isn't it? That's who they're getting for left back. Paul, you're right. Eze, yeah. I've just seen we're apparently in for Paulinho. Yeah, I've talked about him. A little bit earlier. Been live for an hour because there's so much news that came out. I ended up talking about Madueke and Paulinho when I didn't expect to, because it came out pretty much as I went live or was already live. There we go. I like Konsa. I think Konsa's a solid centre back. Yeah. Again, though, it's another right centre back. I quite like Bisseck. I think I'd probably. I think I'd like Bisseck more than Konsa. He's a Tottenham boy, though, Konsa, isn't he? I think Konsa a Spurs boy, or have I imagined that? Rodgers, yeah, he'd be right. He is a Spurs boy. I thought he was. I don't know why. I don't know when I remember seeing that. It was months ago. Yeah, okay. I think everyone's sort of said that. I wasn't imagining it then. No link by Breakbank from Murillo, Baleba, or Wharton. All three are saying at their clubs, is my guess. I think people have looked at Brighton and gone, yeah, we know what you're doing now. You buy someone for 30p and sell them for 300 million. We're not falling for it. Teams need to be smarter. Teams need to be smarter about João Pedro, by the way. Massively overrated. If you look at his stats this season, they look all right. If you actually then look at the stats in a breakdown, they're so naff. So naff. The guy, you want to talk pen merchants. And they want 60 odd million for him. No way. I would want Spurs to be nowhere near João Pedro. There's also another reason why I wouldn't want him to be near it, but can't say that online. I get demonetized. There you go. Webster's a Brighton fan. There you go. I didn't know that. I have to tell my friend who does Brighton stuff like this. I have to tell him that. Obviously, we're never going to go for Aaron Webster. He's massively not good enough, but it's nice to know, though. It is nice to know. But we'll see. We'll see. But look, thank you all so much for joining me this afternoon. I read, showing a meme on Twitter comparing Johnson's 25 goal assists. Fair enough. I mean, it's up to Brighton. How you view a player is how you view a player, but I wouldn't pay 65 million for João Pedro. No, closer to 40 maybe, but no, not 65. But if Brighton get that, kudos, fair play to him. But I hope we're nowhere near that deal, and we aren't. We aren't linked to him, and I'm glad we're not. But anyway, thanks so much for joining me this afternoon. I really appreciate all the likes, the comments, and things like that. I really do appreciate all your interaction. I'll go with a video a little bit later tonight, recapping some of the stories we've talked about. So if you missed out on anything, it will be there. Please comment on that as well. If you want to get a direct response about things, it will be there as well. But I really appreciate it. And if anything new, breaking news comes out, we'll go live. If not, I'll be back tomorrow to talk a lot more about Tottenham. Enjoy the rest of your days, your mornings, your evenings, your afternoons, wherever you are in the world. And I'll speak to you all very, very soon. Take care. Peace.